Chinese military scientists discussed weaponizing SARS coronavirus. The Chinese military scientists discussed the weaponizing of SARS coronavirus 5 years before the COVID 19 pandemic, outlining their ideas in a document that predicted a third world war would be fought with biological weapons. The document, written by People's Liberation Army scientists and senior Chinese public health officials in 2015, was obtained by the US Senate Department as it conducted an investigation in the origins of COVID 19, the Weekend Australian has confirmed. The paper describes SARS coronavirus as heralding a new era of genetic weapons and say they can be artificially manipulated into an emerging human disease virus. Then, the weaponized and unleashed in a way never seen before. The revelation features in an upcoming investigative book on the origins of COVID 19 titled What Really Happened in Wuhan, to be published by HarperCollins. The chairman of the British and Australian Foreign Affairs and Intelligence Committee, Tom Tugendhat and James Patterson, say the document raises major concerns about China's lack of transparency over the origins of COVID 19. The Chinese language paper titled The Unnatural Origin of SARS and New Species of Man-Made Virus as Genetic Weapons outlines China's progress in the research field of biowarfare. Following developments in other scientific fields, there have been major advances in the delivery of biological agents. It states, for example, a newfound ability to freeze-dry microorganisms has made it possible to store biological agents and aerolize them during attacks. Some of China's senior public health and military figures are listed among the 18 authors of the document, including the former Deputy Director of China's Bureau of Epidemic Prevention, Li Feng. 10 of the authors are scientists and weapons experts affiliated with the Air Force Medical University and ranked very high risk for its level of defense research, including its work on medical and physiological sciences, according to the Australian Strategy Policy Institute Defense Universities Tracker. The Air Force Medical University, also known as the 4th Medical University, was placed under the command of the PLA under Xi Jinping's military reforms in 2017. The editor-in-chief of the paper, Zhu Zhengzhong, reported to the top leadership of the Chinese Military Commission and Ministry of Health during the SARS epidemic of 2003, briefing them 24 times and preparing 3 reports according to his online biography. He also held the position of professor and doctoral supervisor in the Air Force Medical University's Military Epidemiology Department. Other authors include Zhang Xingzheng, Zhao Nining, who both served as experiment scientists in the same department. Intelligence agencies suspect COVID-19 may be the result of an inadvertent leak from a Wuhan laboratory, a line of inquiry under investigation since early 2020. There is no evidence to suggest it was intentionally released. Robert Potter, a digital forensic specialist who has worked for the US, Australian and Canadian government and has previously analyzed leaked Chinese government documents, verified the authenticity of the paper. We were able to verify its authenticity as a document authored by the particular PLA researchers and scientists, stated Mr. Potter, the co-chief executive of Internet 2.0, said. We were able to locate its genesis on the Chinese internet. There is concern about high-risk nature of the biological research to coronavirus Wuhan scientists were conducting, particularly involving gain-of-function research where virologists create new viruses that were more transmissible and more lethal. Australian Strategic Policy Institute Executive Director Peter Jinping said Mr. Xi's increasing emphasis on civil military fusion, China's biological research into coronavirus could be weaponized. There is no clear distinction for research capability because whether it's used offensively or defensively is not a decision these scientists would take, he said. If you are building skills ostensibly to protect your military from a biological attack, you are at the same time giving your military a capacity to use these weapons offensively. You can't separate the two. The document offers an insight into the way senior scientists at one of PLA's most prominent military universities were thinking about biological research development. It notes how a sudden surge of patients requiring hospitalization during a bioweapon attack could cause enemy's medical system to collapse. The document refers to the research of Michael J. Ainsworth, a former US Air Force colonel, on modes of conflict and bioweapons. That research explains next generation bioweapons as part of the US Air Force program aimed at better preparing American national security policymakers and senior members of the military to counter the threat from weapons of mass destruction. Drawing on Colonel Ainsworth's research, the authors conclude a third world war will be biological and that the core weapon for victory in World War III will be bioweapons. Colonel Aesong's conclusion states there are those who say First World War was chemical, the Second World War was nuclear, and the Third World War, God forbid, will be biological, it reads. There are two meanings to this. Firstly, the First and Second World War were chemical and nuclear wars respectively. The Third World War will be certainly a biological war. Secondly, advanced weapons are the key factor in determining the fate of World War III. Colonel Ainsworth probably believed that two atomic bombs forced Japan to surrender, laying the foundation for victory in World War II. So the core weapon for victory in World War III will be bioweapons. The study also examines the optimum conditions under which to release a bioweapon. Bioweapon attacks are best conducted during dawn, dusk, night, or cloudy weather because intense sunlight can damage the pathogen, it states. Biological agents should be released during dry weather. Rain or snow can cause aerosol particles to precipitate. A stable wind direction is desirable so that aerosol can float into the target area. Among the most bizarre claims by the military scientists is the theory of SARS-CoV-1. The virus that caused SARS epidemic of 2003 was a man-made bioweapon deliberately unleashed on China by terrorists. Scientist consensus hold that SARS-CoV-1 was a natural origin, having crossed the xenographic barrier from Asian palm civets to humans. Likely, therefore, the sale of wild animals in wet markets in Guangdong province, southern China. The 263-page paper was published in 2015 by the Chinese Military Medical Science Press, a Chinese government-owned publishing house managed by the General Logistics Department of the PLA. The Weekend Australia has confirmed the paper was then obtained by senior officials at the US Department in May 2020 who were investigating the origins of the pandemic. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and his chief China advisor Miles Yu made a passing reference to it in their Wall Street Journal op-ed in February on Chinese laboratory, writing a 2015 PLA study treated the 2003 SARS coronavirus outbreak as a contemporary genetic weapon launched by foreign forces. After this, the paper circulated among Chinese dissident communities online. Luke Depot, the coordinator of the Interplanetary Alliance on China, also received the document and said that while many Chinese papers came across his desk, this one stuck out. If this piece of work is representative of the scientific thinking of those who have advised the top leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, then there are very serious questions which need urgent answers. Mr. Tungdet said Chinese evident interest in bioweapons is extremely concerning. Even after the tightest controls, those weapons are dangerous. This document raises major concern about the ambition of some of those who advise the top party leadership. The Chinese government failure to fully cooperate with the WHO investigative does nothing to instill confidence in what we have been told so far. Only they can dispel speculation about alternative theory of the cause of the pandemic. World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has previously said there needs to be further investigation into the possibility of a lab accident in Wuhan, criticizing his own team's inquiry that claimed a lab leak was unlikely for not being thorough or extensive. Although the team has concluded that a laboratory leak is the least likely hypothesis, this requires further investigation, potentially with additional missions involving specialist experts, which I am ready to deploy, Dr. Tedros said on March 31. The team also visited several laboratories in Wuhan and considered the possibility that the virus entered the human population as a result of laboratory incident. However, I do not believe that this assessment was extensive enough. Further data and studies will be needed to reach more robust conclusions. In 2020, the US Department produced its annual report on arms control agreement, which noted China continues to develop its biotechnology infrastructure and pursue scientific cooperation with countries of concern. The United States has compliance concern with respect to Chinese military medical institution toxin research development because of the potential dual use applications for their potential as a biological threat. Thank you.